Moving forward, I feel privileged to introduce Dr. Supriya Shidde, the principal of VS College of Pharmacy on this occasion. Madam is a chairperson of Board of Studies, University of Mumbai. She has over 28 years of teaching and research experience. With her vast experience in research and academics, she has always guided and enlightened us. She's a lady who believes to lead by her own example. She has received a total research grant of rupees 1,05,98,000 from various government bodies and pharmaceutical companies till this date. She has many national and international publications and presentations to her credit. In this COVID era, we are constantly moving ahead and trying to adapt and evolve under her superb guidance and constant motivation. Without further delay, I request Dr. Shidde Madam to start her session.
Madam, I'll take your leave.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. And
Thank you
if there
so
are
much.
questions, sir, if there are questions to you, we as a host institute would mail it.
Yeah.
And your reply we would share with our participants. Thank you very much
Yes.
for making it.
Yeah. Thank you so
sir.
much, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes. Please give me 2 minutes to share my screen. I hope you all are able to hear.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
See the
Yes.
screen.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Shaina, for that kind introduction.
Of course, ma'am.
Last 1 hour or half an hour, we were listening to Dr. Chitlange about the output of our efforts in terms of national institutional rank. But it doesn't happen overnight. It is so difficult to be among top 50 and then further among top 20 and then top 10 and maybe the topmost. And for that, we need to have deliberate efforts, conscious actions, so that we can develop that kind of ecosystem at our institution. So I'm going to focus on that ecosystem. I'm going to start with a little bit about innovation and ecosystem. And then we are going to look into some government policies to support our ecosystem. And we are going to also talk about national education policy and how does it emphasize on research and innovation. So as I said, I'm going to talk about research and innovation in pharmaceutical industry, what is innovative ecosystem and why to develop it in academic institutions, who are the stakeholders and what are various roles of the stakeholders. And finally, we will be summing up with NEP or linking it with the NEP. So when it comes to research, everyone knows it is the organized and systematic way of finding answers to questions. And this is happening by collecting methods, methodologies that researchers apply systematically to produce scientifically based knowledge about the social world. And when it comes to innovation, we know it very well. It is different from invention. Invention is something new that is coming up. And when it gets converted into commercial applicability, it becomes an innovation. So innovation is a process by which a domain or a product or a service is renewed and brought up to date to new processes, introducing new techniques or establishing successful ideas to create new value. So it's so you have got a lot of scope to innovate. You can innovate in the domain of product or the service. So types of innovation, when I'm talking about process improvement and organizational innovation, is something which all of us are doing, isn't it? So we are trying to optimize our processes. Of course, we are doing it at academic level, but at industrial level, industry is continuously pursuing its process optimization so that it can become more cost effective by considering the inputs in terms of raw material, then flow of technology, various equipment involved and other resources involved, and making it as cost effective as possible by optimizing the process. And when it comes to product development, we all are aware that there are some basic product driven organizations or industries like agriculture, mining or construction. In pharma also, when we talk about a basic drug discovery or formulation development, it comes under product development innovation. service industry is very vast. May it be communication or software development or healthcare providers, then tourism, banking, or accounts advisory. There are so many service industries. So there can be more innovation so that you can reach to the public more effectively, and you can actually fulfill their needs with a more efficient way. That comes under service innovation. And business model innovation, which helps in development of innovative business models and new revenue streams. So business is a very vast kind of word in the sense it encompasses many compartments of business. And so developing that model so that your product becomes commercially viable, it is produced in the shortest possible time, it can be the first product to enter into the market, and it can also satisfy the needs of customers, for which one has to continuously strive hard for business model innovation. And then when it comes to basic research and applied research, we all know our pharmacy, major research is applied research, but that doesn't mean we do not have basic research. Our drug discovery development scientists are working on basic research, and there are many industries which also focus on basic research, and they are into drug discovery development processes, may it be Dr. Reddy's lab, Glenmark, Cipla, and they are trying to augment this research so that they have more and more number of patents, and that is how they can become a leader in the market. They can have a monopoly for their businesses. So somebody had said long back that Merck has properly understood this importance of research, and they do research as per the academic departments. When it comes to this research kind of model, like academic department, it means that your focus is totally on something innovative through basic research, through knowledge gaining, and continuously updating your knowledge. So we know industry is quite commercially driven, but if they have that kind of culture of developing their talents towards research by acquiring eminent research scientists to their board and creating that network system whereby they get connected with global scientists and invite them to their board for interaction, that is how even industry strives hard to grow like academic department for the research. And the major or indicator of good research, it is in terms of patent, publications, and new products that are coming in the market. Talking about innovation ecosystem, it is about the network, and it is the network which involves the various sectors or stakeholders who have complementary competencies, so that there is a, first of all, most importantly, they have common objective or goal, which is very clear at their vision, and they are able to share their knowledge, skill, and they can work cooperatively so as to make this ecosystem sustainable, and every stakeholder of that ecosystem get benefited through their continuous activities. Now, defining the characteristic of an innovation, as I said, there is a dependency of the members on the ecosystem, and this ecosystem has a longer life. The ecosystem is going to sustain for a very long time. Partners may come and go, but they would be totally dependent on the survival of this ecosystem. There will be common set of goals, which is very important. Each of the stakeholder of that ecosystem should be inspired and motivated by that common goal. And then there is a lot of sharing of expertise and knowledge with that complementariness, so that as an ecosystem, the entire business becomes successful. So we consider ecosystem as business ecosystem, which focuses on creating customer unique value proposition. We consider knowledge ecosystem, which focuses on generating new knowledge and technology, and innovation ecosystem, which includes both exploration, that is knowledge, and exploitation, that is business ecosystem. Now, for requirement of successful innovation system, you require funds, you require human capital, you require material goods such as hardware and software technology, creation of platforms that enable stakeholder interaction, an environment that rewards creativity, experimentation, and risk-taking. So if I talk about such type of innovation ecosystem, I can think of IIT Delhi. They have their own incubation center and it has a tie-up with Pfizer. So Pfizer is bringing funding to the table. Human capital is being provided by the IIT Delhi, their parent organization. Material goods such as hardware and software technology that is also getting evolved from IITians. And then there is a platform that is created for all stakeholders to come together. That is in terms of IIT Delhi Incubation Center, Business Incubation Center. And this center is creating that environment of rewards by giving seed funding to the innovators, to the inventors. Pfizer itself is contributing to fund this research. And then there is a continuous experimentation is going on and the risk is taken appropriately so that more and more innovators can incubate in that incubation center. They are promoted to do good innovation. Company, IIT Delhi would take a stake in this innovation, and finally this innovation will get converted to the startup which goes to the market, and Pfizer would also have some kind of stake there. So that becomes a very robust ecosystem where all the stakeholders are enjoying the benefit of it. So it goes without saying that there is immense need to develop such ecosystem in the academics. We as academic institutions are providing talent and intellectual capital. Our faculty and students that are learners who have new ideas and technologies, we are precursors to new products and innovative ideas that can be given to companies. And we allow the stakeholders to get in direct connection with the industry or other innovation partners. That is how we give exposure to our institution. And that is how there is a meaningful partnership with the industry. So we are talking about collaboration, and this collaboration is the only buzzword and only solution to this problem, or rather the concept of developing research ecosystem, which is going to bring a symbiotic association where both the parties will be benefited. The one which is academic institute and other one which can be an industry, which can be other government institute, which can be other private institute, but all must get benefited. That is the key objective of this collaboration. So when I talk about specifically industry collaboration, then institute is going to gain professional exposure, patents and publication in association with the industry, or they may out-license their patent to the industry and enjoy the royalty out of that patent. There will be funding for basic research. This basic research is very expensive, so you require a funding partner. Industry can provide that funding to you, and industry-ready professionals would be churned out. So we have so many institutions, private as well as public, who are doing a lot of research, and industry is funding them so that they get more and more resources to get into more and more innovative research. And talking about industry also is aspiring for this, or rather they also are very much benefited from this association, because it is this academic institution which acts as a breeding ground for ideas, innovative concepts. And our academic setup is always thorough in the scientific knowledge. And of course, financial benefits industry may offer to the institute. And industry ultimately would also be benefited financially. Why? If some innovation reaches to the market, and if company has a stake into it, or they have acquired the patent for that perpetual license for that particular product, then industry is definitely benefited through this symbiotic association. So this is very important, that European University Association also specifies for roles of universities: education, that is providing human capital for innovation; research, that is knowledge co-production for private and public value creation; then knowledge exchange for innovation system, from technology transfer to multi-actor co-creation; and strategic transformation involving innovation. So I am again repeating that research and linkages are important, because that is going to help in collaboration with industry, And this collaboration is going to lead to grant support and also this is just not the industry linkage, but linkages with the other departments of the same institute is equally important. Because if you're talking about any molecule and if you have the amalgamation of research of various departments, that is drug discovery or some kind of isolation project, phytoconstituent coming from pharmacognosy, and then formulation development coming from pharmaceutics, and pharmacology, it's giving you the proof of concept through preclinical research, that becomes a very impactful multidisciplinary research. And that also is going to be qualified for publication in a high impact factor that Dr. Chitlange just now mentioned while talking about good ranking in our country. Of course, we have a role to play when it comes to curriculum-based innovation. And that's why National Education Policy is promoting for more and more autonomy, because your curriculum can become more industry relevant. Your product of that curriculum, that is your learner, has very good employability, and industry is not feeling that gap between the academy and industry. And that is how you have to become very innovative. You can give a lot of other add-on courses, some peripheral training, some certificate courses which are going to help to bridge the gap between the academia and the industry. So all these live projects, case studies, inviting problem statement from the industries, making our students and teachers work on these problem statement, this is very important. There, our institution role is very important as a leader. Of course, we say in Marathi, Vatsal tar Vatsal. So you need to continuously upgrade your knowledge. So we are very busy through our academic endeavors, but it's very important that we participate in many such webinars, seminars, and keep updating our knowledge. And that helps us in generating idea. And we have abilities to pitch it so that we can attract the investor who can invest into idea and convert it into commercially viable product. Startup is very important concept. Now the saturation is there in the market when it comes to recruitment. So it is very important that you provide the startup kind of culture to your students who think out of the box, you promote and encourage this thinking, and ultimately they incubate, and before they graduate, they have their own startup company. And for that, you as an institute is going to have very important role. And my colleague, Dr. Anita Aire, is going to throw light on your role as an incubation cell and as a pre-incubation center. Of course, your infrastructure is very important, because no industry will come to you if you have a GMP compliant kind of infrastructure in terms of equipment, in terms of facilities. So one speaker was talking in our webinar, which was conducted 2 days back, and he was saying that industry expects that institute also should rise to the status of CRO, so that industry would give the project to academic institute as a CRO instead of going to some other commercial organization which is established as a CRO. So why can't we rise to that level of CRO? Is it possible? Very well possible if you have that leadership and the vision of the leader and the management to create that facility to reach to the level of CRO, so that industry can partner with you. And of course, there has to be some kind of baseline or policy or strategy in place, and that helps in giving a kind of vision to every stakeholder of the institute to move ahead in alignment with the policy. So this is very important that your institution is creating those policies, intellectual property policy, research policy, NISP policy, and these policies are in alignment with the national policies. And that is how your every faculty and student is aware about their role in the innovation and research, and they are also aware how their parent institution is going to support when it comes to their innovation. So when I'm talking about institution, teacher, learner, industry, and government, these are my very important stakeholders. And when it comes to the role, first we talk about academic culture that acknowledges, supports, and rewards research and innovation in terms of policies, incentives, When I say incentive, it need not be very big amount. Even if you announce some awards like Best Innovation Award and your faculty members are encouraged for that award, definitely that award and that certificate becomes precious for them and they're going to strive hard for that. And further, in your IP policy, if you have principal investigators contingency, which is encouraging them as an honorarium to take up the research, your organization is promoting consultancy and some share that is being given to the consultant as a faculty member, everything together is going to boost that research ecosystem in your organization. That's not enough. Management has to earmark budget for this research, and this budget, when we talk about national level or global level, we always hear that the global industry, industry in US, let us talk about that because it's supposed to be a benchmark. So they're investing, industry is investing 10% of their GDP in R&D. Am I audible? Any problem? So
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
thank you. So I'm talking about the industry and their aspirations to have 10% of their GDP, of the country's GDP towards research, and maybe 10% of their revenue also into the research. Then why not to have such type of targets for the academic institution? Whether we are consciously marking some funds for R&D and whether it is at least 4% of our total budget, that itself is huge. And that can help in providing incentives to the faculty, to the students, and creating that kind of encouraging environment for them to take up the research. And of course, providing infrastructure so that they are not handicapped, that everything is available under the roof. And if not available, there is a collaborative model so that your collaborators can have complementary facilities and expertise, and both together can come up with a great research. So robust relationship which builds a trust between the institute and the industry, that is important, and that is possible by participation of industry in management on policy framing. So our NIRF and maybe our AICTE, PCI, they all promote such type of participation of the industry. If you talk about NBA, we have departmental advisory board in the NBA, we have a program assessment committee in the NBA, and you all know in DAP, departmental advisory board, there is a noticeable participation by industry is required. NIRF or AICTE CIS survey asks you, what is the participation of the industry in designing your curriculum and whether their ideas have you implemented as an institute? So all these questions, why government is putting in the ranking framework, this is because when we have this question by the regulators asked to us, we are going to definitely consciously put in our efforts towards it. So when I talk about WestCorp, we have a very solid representation of the industry in our governing body, in college development committee, departmental advisory board, and we have a separate industrial advisory board for our incubation center. So that is how, the industry keeps on telling us, okay, this is somebody told us, okay, dermal product, this is going to be tomorrow's blockbuster. You start working on that. Another industry person said that herbal and nutraceutical should not be ignored. Lot of scope is there in these two areas in future. Start venturing into nutraceuticals. So this industry panel tells us about that area which is really going to boom in coming years and where our academic institutions should focus our efforts. So that comes from the suggestion of the industry boards, industry people who are on our boards. And they are not only just suggesting us for the research areas, they're actually participating in grooming our students. So our industry partners are invited to conduct the mock interviews of our students. They give them, we have a HR meeting, HR summit. So all human resource department professionals talk about the expectations of the industry and the problems that industry faces with the fresh recruiters. And that is how our students come to know what is the expectation of the industry and how they have to groom themselves so that they get aligned with the expectation of the industry. And then when I'm talking about that association, we have to also have strategies of licensing our own research through patent publication and trademark. So only you can out-license it to the industry partner. And we need to have activities in alignment with all government policies. So we cannot ignore incubation. We cannot ignore pre-incubation related activities. And it is just not about the ranking, but it is also about what service you're going to give to your students, what kind of encouragement that you're giving to your product, your learner, so that when they enter into the market, they are having really a holistic growth that developed in their personality, in their pursuits, and industry welcomes them. They have an edge over others. So this is very important that we take up all these activities very seriously, not for anyone else, but for our own students who can have a stand, who can stand very confidently, who will have a strong footing in the industry, a corporate world, once they pass out from our organization. So business incubate, I'm not going to talk much about it. My colleague is going to talk about it. So I'm just skipping some of the slides which are talking about business incubation and the role of incubator, that is your institution, in promoting idea, planning, product development, market development, and launching it finally into the market. And then talking about the roles of institutions. So we have first teachers who are guiding the learners, generation of knowledge, and they are creating the ideas. So they also have a problem solving approach. So if you read National Education Policy, they are talking about critical thinking. They talk about problem solving approach. So this is all directing towards application of the concepts that you are learning. And those concepts, when they are very clear, you know where exactly they should be applied. Not only you as a faculty, but your students have a clarity about the application of that concept. So it is very important that you get into the innovative teaching learning pedagogies like flipped classrooms, rather than just learning, teaching the basics just by going through the PowerPoint presentation. Share your PPTs, share your videos, and just have the interaction sessions with your students. Let them think differently. Let them give some presentation in the form of 1 or 2 slides by comprehending the knowledge that is shared with them through your videos, your pre-recorded session, and let there be a creative thinking that is encouraged through your students so that they become a tomorrow's innovator. So as a teacher, it is just not enough that you have a sound knowledge of your domain, you have sound knowledge of national policies, granting norms, and you are also updating the knowledge. When I say strong, sound knowledge and expertise, it means that you have to identify your niche area. It is not possible that you are jack of all trades and master of none, because this is highly competitive world. So you have to select the niche area, and you have to put in your 100% efforts to read more onto it, to get connected with people who have similar kind of niche, and creating that network, and direct your efforts towards research and new product that is coming into that niche. This is very important. So continuous updation of that knowledge in the domain expertise, and continuously giving some outcome in that knowledge. That is how your visibility becomes very clear when it comes to that particular area, and world scientists start looking up to you as the innovator and the person who is actively working in that niche area. So not only that, so we are talking about science so far, but I always say that market awareness is very important, because you cannot just become an academician. Gone those days when you had a curriculum and you just delivered it. Now you need to also think whether what you are delivering has a commercial intention, commercial interest. And for that, you need to have a market awareness. Market awareness means what? When you're talking about any product, you need to also think about what is the segment for which this product is meant for. And the segmentation may be based on the demography, or maybe based on psychography, or maybe based on geography, or maybe behavior. That based on that, there are various segmentations. So your product is exactly for which segment? Who are the competitors in the market for that segment? And then what are their strengths and what are your strength, weaknesses, and where you have opportunities to grow? And then what are your projections, financial projections, to move on, to bring your product to the market, and what are the threats and what are the risks that you have to take before it reaches to the market. So that canvas is called as business canvas. So we as an academician cannot remain away from that commercial interest of our product or commercial side of the product. We need to also acquire knowledge in that domain. And there are so many open learning resources available, made with Swayam platform, NITTT. You need to not just take up the technical knowledge, but also you have to develop your marketing abilities so that you can eventually become not just the inventor, but the proprietor for your product. And your college, your institution, through your NIST, can give you some kind of free scope to become the proprietor, and institute also can share the benefit of you becoming the businessman. So linkages with the industry that I've already spoken about, and expertise also have spoken. And so we understand our role is much beyond the classroom, and we have to be innovative ambassador. This concept I'm going to just touch upon briefly in the future slides. And we need to have vision for innovation and positive attitude. So vision is most important. When I talk about vision of VS College of Pharmacy, I just say that we want to create competent pharmacy professionals who will positively impact healthcare of the society. But this is just not enough. I have program education objective in place. I would say that my students should be capable of pursuing higher education, that is master's and PhD. This is possible if I give them that kind of background, conducive background during their graduation, and I encourage them to think in a different way, innovative way. And I also have a program education objective that they have to contribute in the pharmaceutical R&D effectively, and some of them should inculcate the entrepreneurship skills so that they have their own startup. So when I spell it in my program educational objectives, not just me as a leader of this organization, but every teacher, every student, every staff becomes aware of this objective. And then we all align our efforts to achieve this objective. So this is about, this was the role of institution. In role of teachers, we have spoken that our mind is like a fertile land. We are generating the ideas, we are building sound knowledge base, we are expanding and updating our idea, and we are progressive in vision and positive attitude. And when it comes to the role of the industry, they are participating, they are giving us problem statement, they are advisory to our management and for curriculum development, they are identifying the area for collaboration, they are supporting us financially, and they are imparting professional training to our students. And that is how knowledge is getting shared. So again, I would quote a case study of VS College of Pharmacy here. We have a collaboration with the multinational company Procter & Gamble Limited. So through that collaboration, every year, 10 students from third year BPharm are undergoing implant training at their premises. 3 students from masters are completing full-length research in their premises. They deliver at least 10 guest lectures at our college, and they share their infrastructure. It is a state-of-the infrastructure, GMP compliant infrastructure, with us for conducting some kind of research. To say a few facilities, we can use their auto coater, which is state-of-the-art auto coater. We can use their 3D printer, which is used by them for innovative packaging devices. And this in COVID also, because they are available in our own campus, this collaboration continued. So isn't it a strong kind of case study which exemplifies that this kind of contribution industry can definitely have? And when it comes to financial support, yes, they give us some funding also. And we are the first to say no for any research project that they want to give to the academia. So that is how we are getting really financially also supported through this partnership. So I encourage all of you as an institute to have such collaborators, have a nice MOU which is functional with that collaborator, and let there be a win-win kind of association. When I say win-win, it is important that our teacher and our institute also gives back to them. So yes, when there is an internship of a master's project, it is just not that they are training us. Our guide is also very intensely involved in that interaction. Our research advisor also takes part in every discussion, and our facilities are also given to them when they do not have certain facilities, maybe a fluid bed coater or maybe a nanosizer, which is ZS90, which we have. They can very well use it from our facility. So that becomes a symbiotic association, and both of us get benefited, and we would like to have a long association which would be really sustainable. So talking about government has already given us a lot of policies: Startup India, Make in India, Skill India, Ministry of Education's Innovation Council, and we have NISP of government, we have national, then we have ranking frameworks, Atal ranking of institution for innovative achievements. Our institution participates in every initiative of the government. So I know that we cannot just go on venturing into every small thing, but there is one niche area which we are developing, which will have a kind of qualification to participate in various initiatives of government, you know. So it is not that we are doing lot of work. We may be doing specific work, but which is a focused work that helps us to participate in some policies under various tags. Okay. And then AICTE-CIS survey is wonderful survey, because I feel that was the basic thing for us, which triggered innovative environment in our college, which triggered collaboration with the industry, because that worked as a kind of benchmark for us to set our systems and align it with the industries. So government policies has that role to play. Not only that you are going to get funding support, but that is a big incentive to get some awards, some recognition at the national level. And that is how we have to always be aware about the policies and be very interactive and very participative when it comes to these policies. Dr. Chitlange has spoken a lot about NIRF ranking, and probably that was one of the impetus for D.Y. Patil Institute to grow and become one of the best colleges in Pune University. And we are also always striving hard. If right now we are not in top 50, we definitely have a dream to reach to top 50. So talking about Ministries of Education's Innovation Council, so each institute has institution's Innovation Council, and the objective is to focus on creating complete ecosystem, which will foster the culture of innovation across all educational institutions. So my colleague is going to talk more about it, about pre-incubation center, the incubator, the successful startups graduating from the incubator, and the designing of ranking to participate into ranking system. Everything is the initiative of Ministry of Education's Innovation Council. And they also talk about working closely with higher educations to encourage the creative energy of students' population to work on new ideas and innovation, and to promote them to create startup and entrepreneurship. So Ministry of Education and Innovation Council has taken these solid initiatives: Yukti 2, NISP, Kapila, and Innovation Ambassador. What is Yukti 2? So this is to connect the startups from academic institutions with mentors and trainers, and providing the outreach to which facilitates the connect with the potential investors. So always we have this question in our mind. We are talking about innovation, we are talking about incubation center, but it is just not enough that great innovation would be coming up to the startup stage without any funding support. So every inventor requires funding support. And especially so when they are just graduating from the institution, they have not yet established into the corporate world. They are just the beginners in this area. They need a lot of funding support. So we always think over how to reach to the investors, how to find out the venture capitalists who can invest into it, how to reach to the angel investor, how our work should become visible to these investors, to the industry. So thanks to Ministry of Education's Innovation Council, they have created the platform called Yukti 2. Definitely you can visit their website and read more on to Yukti 2. But it is the objective of the Yukti 2 venture or initiative to connect the startups from academic, this is very important, from academic institution with the mentors and trainers, and providing the outreach to facilitate the connect with the potential investor. So outreach is something which is lacking. So this outreach is being given to us through Yukti 2. and this will help in fostering the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in our educational institution, as mentioned by Union Minister of Education during the launch of Yukti 2. Second is NISP, not going to talk about it now. Third is Kapila, that is Kalam program of IP literacy and awareness. So this is very important because right now what are we doing? When we want to file a patent, we require a patent attorney, patent agency, and then there are finances involved. So we have limitation. We can't patent more than 2 or 3 research per year because there will be some kind of constraint, financial constraint. So government says, why not your own teachers get trained about patent, how to file it, and how to enforce it. So for that, the government is going to recognize, facilitate, and felicitate intellectual property, innovation, and best practices in HAI, and a systematic, holistic approach to create appropriate awareness regarding the need of IP filing, mechanism and methodology involved in filing IP in India and globally, especially among students and faculty of higher education institutions, would be achieved through this Kapila initiative. So Kapila will help in establishing the much required IP filing ecosystem in large number of education institutions. So see, Yukti is trying to give us outreach to the investors and industry mentors, and Kapila is increasing our awareness about patent filing, and it is helping us to develop IP filing ecosystem at our institution. Okay, and then innovation cells, innovation ambassador concept. So again, most of you have innovation institutions, innovation council, and you might have attended that 13 lecture series that was floated by this ministry last year. So all these people who attended all these sessions and who have the attendance certificate there for participation actively and solving the assignment, they all will become the innovation ambassadors. So government has a very ambitious plan to train more than 5,000 faculty members on design thinking and innovation. So design thinking is altogether a different concept. It is talking about that kind of design which is leading to innovation. And you may have a lot of software available for this design thinking. Then IPR and technology transfer, which is important because IPR, if you are filed, you have been granted, you got the rank in NIRF. What next? Are you going to convert it into financial gain? This is possible if you are able to transfer it into technology, and you are going to give this technology to the industry partner who can give you royalty on that IP rights that you have given to him or her, to that industry. So how do you do that? So innovation ambassador will be trained about it. Pre-incubation, incubation management. Why do you have to have resources coming from outside? Your own faculty members, they can develop their skill to manage the pre-incubation and incubation center, which is there at your institute. And that is how they are the most closely connected with the institution. They are the stakeholders. This is their host. This is their second home. So none other than them can actually promote this innovative environment, and then they can encourage more students to incubate. So government wants them to be developed as innovation ambassador, and actually they would also participate in entrepreneurship development program for their self-education. Talking about NEP, National Education Policy, is also giving lot of importance about multidisciplinary research. In fact, the policy says that your institution has to, sooner or later, should get converted into research intensive or teaching intensive or autonomous degree awarding university, ensuring multidisciplinary approach. So we feel there is long time to go. Why to now bother? No, dear friends, that is not the case. Our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji is very ambitious about this policy, and he wants that within a couple of years, this policy becomes a reality. So we need to identify ourselves into one of the categories, whether we are research intensive or whether we want to develop ourselves as autonomous degree awarding university or teaching intensive university. Mind well, your government talks about that autonomy. Government talks about getting away from the affiliated systems. Government promotes private universities. and government also promotes about your existence as a independent entity who's away from any regulatory clutches and who can innovate and who can focus all their efforts for this kind of multidisciplinary approach. Multidisciplinary approach becomes a buzzword when it comes to our NEP, National Education Policy. It is not asking us to work in silos. So there are campuses where there is engineering, where there is science, there is pharmacy, architecture, management, how they all can come together, how the student can take up credits through all these institutions, and whether there will be there is a concept of ABC, Academic Bank of Credit. So how these credits can be converted into their degree after 1 year, diploma, after 2 years degree, after 3 years research-based, after 1 year certificate, 2 years diploma, 3 years degree, and 4 years research-based degree, right? So that is what government wants to take place. And that is how the education is going to change in the days to come. So if we are going to just satisfy into only teaching and learning, then probably you will become obsolete in 5 years to come. So it is very important that you focus your efforts on research, you become innovative, your every teacher breathes research and they participate wholeheartedly so that you can definitely categorize yourself as research intensive university. I might not so when ours is a professional program. Now, we are also talking about holistic and multidisciplinary education, and government talks about MERU. What is MERU? Multidisciplinary Education and Research University. So we all are aware about public funded premier institutions, IIMs, IITs, NITs, national law schools. But now government is going to create one more kind of category, and that is multidisciplinary education and research university, that is MERU. And they want that MERU to come to the level of IITs and IIMs. So that student ultimately gets the benefit of multidisciplinary research, and they actually can lead to the final aim of the country of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Then HEIs will develop specific hand-holding mechanism and competitions for promoting innovation among student communities. Autonomy to innovate on matters, curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment within a broad framework of higher education qualification. So whether you are going to have your assessment, which is aligned with the program outcome, and whether you can have that freedom and autonomy to develop your assessment system so that you are not focusing on learning by rote, but you are talking about students thinking innovatively, and their creative thinking is discriminating them as the outstanding student over others. NEP is also talking about motivation of the faculty. They are talking about, NEP is talking about the faculty to conduct innovative teaching, research, and services. And the NEP talks about incentivizing the excellence of faculty. So the one who is actually performer, who is doing a good research, and also is an effective teacher, who is a very good administrator, who is involved in policy making for the organization, that person will be then identified as a outstanding faculty, and government would have plans to develop such faculties so that they can demonstrate their leadership and management skills, and they can be identified early and trained through a ladder of leadership position. So a faculty can definitely reach to the vice chancellor's post if he has a knowledge, he has abilities, he has good leadership talent. And why just at your university? You can also lead to the nation when it comes to education and drive of a nation to design various policies for students. There is a very clearly defined and independent, transparent processes and criteria for faculty recruitment. And there shall be a fast-track promotion system. You don't have to wait for 10 years or 20 years. So that becomes another very impactful incentive, a fast-track promotion system for recognizing high-impact research and contribution. And then we have the NEP catalyzes quality academic research in all fields through a new National Research Foundation. So right now we are talking about DBT, DST, SERB, ICMR. So instead, government wants one single national research foundation, which would cater to the needs of innovation by various academic institutions. And government is also trying to align all regulatory agencies under one umbrella. So accreditation agencies, regulator agency, funding agencies, then other central educational agencies, they want to compile it under one umbrella. So they're talking about transforming the regulatory system of higher education by setting up Higher Education Commission of India, setting up National Higher Education Regulatory Council, setting up National Accreditation Council, Higher Education Grant Commission, General Education Council, and restructuring of NCAR, ICR, VCI, NICT, COA, NCVT as professional standard setting bodies. So this is the aspect of NEP, and NEP is very seriously working on it so that the entire picture of education will change. There will be complete revolutionary change. And we, within 5 years, are going to witness this change. But we need to align our practices so that we are not outdated. We are running with equal pace, and we are in alignment with government's dreams. Effective governance and leadership for higher education institution is important. A suitable system for graded accreditation and graded autonomy is being talked about. Effective strategic institutional development plan on the basis of which institution will develop initiatives, assess their own progress, and reach the goals set therein, which could then become the basis for further public funding. And lastly, I would talk about academic institutions, how strong they are, and if they do good research work, how it can become a kind of blockbuster and also a great boon to the society and the community at large. So we are talking about the Covishield vaccine, which was the innovation of the Oxford University, which was licensed to AstraZeneca. And then we got the Covishield vaccine, which is now being synthesized in our country, in India, by Serum Institute of India. And it is needless to say how beneficial this turned out to be in this COVID-19 pandemic. And one more example I would like to quote is a simple professor. Why I say simple? Because professors are always simple, but they are a great thinker. Yeah. So he has worked on, his name is Dr. I'm very sorry, I'm just forgetting the name. I would come back to you with his, so yeah, it is written here, Mr. T. Pradeep, Professor T. Pradeep. So 10 years back, he developed a technology of nanochemistry filtration. Okay, nanochemistry is used for filtration, and he developed and discovered a method to make a drinking water free from pesticide. 10 years back, he developed this technology, and which reached to 7.5 million people. Okay, this was IIT Madras project. And now, very recently, they have come up with another big innovation, and that is making water arsenic free. This becomes a challenge when it comes to mixing of water with pesticides and some other manures and any other contaminants. So how to make your water, especially in the industrial area, how to make it free from arsenic contamination. So they have developed that technology so that they can make it available to the common man for the rate of 5 paisa per liter. That is the essence of the technology. Isn't it really appealing? So it just doesn't have a commercial angle, but it also have a community angle, that it is an affordable technology. And they have a vision. Right now it is reached to 0.5 million. Government of Bengal, Kolkata has already started using this technology for their industrial use, but they want to reach to not just our country, but many people across the globe. And we are proud of this innovator, Professor T. Pradeep, whose lab, IIT Madras lab, has come up with this innovation. So thank you very much for your patient listening. And With this, I would like to conclude my session. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Shridhar Madam, for your very insightful talk and sharing so many ideas with us all, right from establishing symbiotic collaborations to how an institute itself can practically increase and facilitate their research output and innovation in an impactful way.